Good morning, everybody. Welcome. Time to talk Buffalo Bills football. Oh, yeah. Nice win coming off a nice win with the Steelers. Today's broadcast brought to you by our friends at Box Drop Syracuse, the mattress and sofa outlet. Go see our friends at Box Drop where you can save 30 to 70%. Or if you're a first responder or a teacher or military, retired, or active, how about 35 to 75? That is some pretty good ducats. And around this time, the holidays, why wouldn't you want to save money on a sofa or a mattress if that's your need? So go see our friends at Box Drop today. We'll have a little bit more on them in a little bit. Boy Green, you chomping at the bit?
Yeah, just a quick question, because you were listing all the jobs that could get an additional 5% off. Is podcast host one of them?
No,
I'm asking for my
not.
guy Anthony, cover one.
Not. But I do know the owner. I could work something out. I mean,
okay.
when you're giving 30 to 70, I mean, really, what's another 5% among friends? You know what I mean?
That's a good point.
I probably could talk to Paul, the owner. You'll see me there. You know, I sleep on his beds and I shake his hand quite a lot. You see that in the commercial. So, I mean, there could be a play here for you, Anthony. So if you need, you let me know, pal. I'll hook you up. All right.
I appreciate it. Thank you guys. You guys are too kind. I appreciate it.
Got to find a way to get it from Central New York over there to Western New York.
No problem. They have
things have happened.
Stranger things have happened, and I like what you did there, Lurch. I would also say this. Hey, you know what? We keep things straight here. There's no disguised coverage. We are doing exactly what is required here to hook up our guy Anthony. Huh?
Nice play there. I like that. Nice.
All right, we got it all going today, man. The holidays are closing in. We're sharp. We're on our game.
Firing all cylinders. I like it.
Give it to us, Anthony. Here, real quick. Come on, look at all the
the layout is improving by the day. So let's go.
I still have to hang this. I got lazy there.
Okay. What is that? That's back there. What's
and a signed Andre Reed jersey?
Yeah, okay. Hall of Famer.
Oh yeah, now
Bills legend.
There. Yes. I can see the.
So that's going to go there, and then I got some other stuff that'll go kind of there. But I knew this was going to move. The little tree was going to move, so I was like, I can delay on that. But yeah, I got the big holiday tree up. This will stay here. I'll probably push it through middle of January because I like this tree a lot.
Yeah, me too.
But we were thank you. We were talking offline. I got a nice little red star up there, but you can't see it. So you were saying leave it up, and I agree, but I feel like there's too much.
Star's going to be at the top of the tree.
But there's too much like naked here.
Yeah.
I got to do something. I like there's some branches here. I feel like I can move it from there and get it to here.
All right. Maybe
it could still be the illusion of the top.
Or just chop the bottom of the tree. Just take a little off the bottom.
Yeah, right.
I don't think that'll work here.
Lower it. You got one of those frosted trees there, I see.
I do.
Very nice.
I'm
a big fan.
It up for you. Very cool.
I'm a big fan of the frosted trees. And what's good about this one, fingers crossed, no jinx, it's not because I love the frosted trees, but if anyone's ever had one, like if you touch them or rub against them, the frost comes everywhere.
That's why I don't want one. But
this one is great. It is like every time I've had it for 3 years, putting it away, setting it up, there's minimal stuff that comes off. It's not we brushed up against it. Now let's vacuum for an hour and a half.
Yes. Exactly.
Everything is, this is a quality one. I don't remember where we got it, but I love it. Yeah, and it pops with the red, and I'm a big fan. That's
my fear that you get the frost.
It's everywhere, and you can't. Man. And it's so messy.
Why don't I just get a real one then, and I'll have the pine needles all over the place? One or the other.
Yeah. Hey, real quick, one last inquiry here, Anthony. It's to my right, your left. What's going on there? What is that? The mosaic light.
That's a fancy lamp there.
That's a lamp.
It's a lamp. It's a Tiffany lamp. It belonged to my grandmother, and now I have it. And it's just really pretty and nice. Every once in a while, I turn it on when I'm not doing shows. It's a really
I bet that looks pretty.
Yeah, it is. It's nice.
Rainbow colors and whatnot.
Yeah.
Okay, very
quick
nice.
Little lamp story since we're on it. My son, when he moved out finally, of his parents' homes, his mom allowed him to take any item from the house that he wanted in terms of furnishing, in terms of furnishings. Like you could take anything. You want that dresser, you want that table, you want
the roof. But only one.
Chair, but one item. One. He's allowed to take one item from his mom's house.
Okay.
And she had this beautiful Turkish lamp. It was mosaic like that, Anthony, except a lot more detailed. I'll have my son take a picture of it this week, and maybe I'll bring it next week.
Yeah.
All right, I'll put it up on here in a graphic. It's gorgeous, and it's sitting now in his apartment in Forest Hills where he now lives, so he has his own place. That's why he was getting his own place, moving out and getting his own place.
But taking a little piece of home with him.
He absolutely hit a home run because I've been in her place, and I'm like, if I had the choice, I'd take that
I
Turkish
take
lamb.
the lamb.
I mean,
wow,
it's
class.
very, very unique. And she did get it from Turkey. She was in Istanbul for something and got it from some lamp maker in Turkey. And it is beautiful. And
cool.
so, I'll take a picture of it.
I was kind of hoping
really
he was going to be like, I want the lamp. And she's like, oh, no, you got to pick something else.
Anything
The lamp's
but
off.
that.
Yeah.
Right.
No, his mom is a woman of her word. So she meant it. She was like, whatever you want. I was like, oh, my God, he's going to take that lamp. And he did. I was like, ooh.
I feel like it's been a thing about the conversation amongst like everyone for years has been like, oh, we want the lamp. Oh, the lamp is amazing. And then finally, it's, oh, someone got the lamp.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
Well, I'll just tell you this, Lurch, right off the top. What a host that you're like, hey, by the way, just because we brought up lamps, I've had this lamp story I've been sort of sitting on for a while. I just want to sort of unload that. So
I like it. No,
the
last time we spoke with him, we got the Macy's Day float story and
true,
the balloon stuff. I like the lamp. I'm liking these. I think we need to make this. We got to get like a quick 1 to 2 minute story every episode now. I like it. I like
what made me think of it, BG, is because when we did the Jets tailgate, which wasn't that long ago. I mean, it was during this
October
football
5th,
season,
2
right?
months
October
ago.
5th. I went down and stayed with my son in Forest Hills, and then the two of us, as you know, came in for the Jets tailgate. Where's my voice going?
You get emotional about that. I can understand.
I really do.
I mean, it's a Turkish lamp. It's
that horrible loss that the Jets had that day. It really chokes me. Had to go there, Anthony, right? So I stayed at his apartment, and he had the lamp sitting there on like this little table, but he didn't have it on, and it wasn't even plugged in. And I was like, dude, what? You got that lamp from your mother. That thing's amazing. Light that thing up, and that thing stays on all the time. Because it's kind of like, it's not a really bright thing. It's nice. It's a nice decorative, like you can leave it lit all the time, you know. And it just provides a little ambient light, but it's really, really pretty. So anyway, he doesn't start lighting up that lamp. I'm going to go down there and take that.
Yeah, you got to let him know what's up. He's
going to wake up in the morning. I'll be gone, and the lamp will be with me.
The lamp will be with you.
And where did my lamp go?
Don't know what happened. I'll leave this one on because my day job work setup. You can see one of my other monitors over here.
Yes.
My day job work setup is here.
And over here,
So then I'll turn this on and kind of work by that. And then when I'm doing stuff in here like late night when it's dark, I'll just have that on, and it creates a nice, cozy,
cool glow,
but pretty lighted area. And
nice.
It'll kind of keep me calm when I'm watching Bills tape and they're doing horrible things or whatever I'm doing in here. It's a good time.
Yeah, we do Survivor at night. We just did our Survivor show last night. This is the last story. Don't get talk Bills. And I the lights that I have in this room, I can change their colors. I can dim them. I can do whatever I want, and it's controlled by like 4 lights. So for Survivor, I make it all dark, and it's like bluey, huey,
eerie.
Cool.
Got to theme it up.
Looks
I like
really
it.
Cool. So that's it. Listen, good to have ambiance. All right, enough of the ambiance. All right, let's get to some football for crying out loud. You got something else, Boy Green?
No, it is football related.
Okay.
So,
all right, you go first. Go ahead.
So I just have to say, Anthony, like, don't you guys have any respect? Okay, so you go into Pittsburgh and you smack him around and you beat him, and then you have to take Darius Slay too. Is that did you take a lamp while you were down there in Pittsburgh?
That's fair.
For God's sake?
Just walk in there, you beat them, take all their lamps.
Yeah, Darius, that'll be nice. All right, get this lamp.
Well,
thanks, guys. Peace.
Depending on how you feel, like some Bills fans wanted Adam Thielen, and the Steelers claimed Adam Thielen, and so that people were like, "Oh, is it a retaliation?" But like the Slay signing or pickup, I should say, waiver ad, is interesting. Because you wouldn't think, I don't think he's coming in there to supplant Trey White or Max Hairston, but Max Hairston only played 10 snaps in the game against Pittsburgh, had a bit of a concussion at some point. It was like, okay, does this mean is Hairston more banged up than it seems? Is this just a depth signing? Is this just a vet? What is it? Because Slay was getting like the bulk of the snaps. He was the starter opposite. I mean, Paul, you probably saw him a ton in week 1 against the Jets. But he got the bulk of the snaps really through week 9 against the Colts. But then he only saw 16 against the Chargers, not much, against the Bengals in week 11, and then minimal against the Bears in week 12. And then he didn't play at all against the Bills. So it's like someone who fell out of favor on a defense that needs corners. And I mean, they just brought in Asante Samuel Jr., who had like a neck fusion, was waiting to sign. He comes in, gets activated for the game against the Bills, plays because Pierre goes down and they put him in, and then Slay gets cut. I'm interested to see what they get from him going forward. He can still play a little bit of man and some match stuff. They've been locking the backside of some formations, so maybe they do that a bit more. Maybe, he cycles into a rotation, but Trey White has been playing good enough. I am interested to kind of see what it is, if there's a real breadcrumb here, or if it's just like take a dart throw, get a vet who's got some experience, help some depth, and maybe it's just more of like a break glass in case of emergency scenario.
All right, let's talk about what the Bills did in this game against the Steelers, and can they repeat it? Because obviously they need to keep winning games. They want to stay in the playoff hunt. It seems to be getting more and more distant in terms of their opportunity to win the division, but certainly they want to make sure that they make the playoffs. So what were they doing well in Pittsburgh, and can they rinse repeat here against Cincinnati?
That is the top question. That is the thing that matters most, because what they did, essentially, there were several, but the biggest things they did were run the ball really well on offense and stop the run on defense. And the second part there, stopping the run defensively, has been a chore for them all year. They have not been good at it. They're one of the worst run defense teams in the league. They, before this game, were at a historic pace for yards after contact per rush because of how poor their tackling was. But in this game, in a game where, yes, Pittsburgh doesn't have a great passing attack, and it is very much like completed underneath, get some yards after catch. So it's not very formidable. Plus, the weather and the elements contributed to not having, a lot to do in the air. But despite all that, even when things like that have happened in the past this year, the teams have still just run on the Bills, and they were gap sound. They were much more physical up front than we've seen in the past from like a mentality standpoint. It looked like they came into that game ready to stop the run. They just played physical and violent up front. They beat guys up front. And it was nice to see. I also think it's not coincidental at this point. Terrell Bernard is hurt. He didn't play in this game. When Shaq Thompson has been in there, he's been better than Bernard. He's been the best Bills linebacker, and he makes them significantly better against the run because of his calming presence and organization from a play call and adjustment standpoint, but also just how he plays the run. He flows and fits into gaps nicely off of the front. He knows how to fit. He's big. He's got some length. He's athletic. He's able to get off blocks. So that's the big question. Can they continue that going forward? I think them succeeding on the ground offensively, they're one of the best running teams in football. Each week, it's just going to be a matter of, does the opposing defense have a good enough secondary where they can just have their guys live on islands and crowd the box and stop the Bills run game? Because one thing the Steelers didn't do, they didn't gap out. If the Bills had 8 gaps, they didn't have 9 bodies or 8 bodies to account for the gaps. They matched with like a hat on a hat, and the Bills just beat them up and took them one-on-one to the woodshed left and right.
This statistic, I was reading it from ESPN. The Bills pulled out a win over the Steelers without both of their starting tackles last week, running for 249 yards. That was the most rushing yards allowed by the Steelers in a home game during the Mike Tomlin era. And that's not a Mike Tomlin era of 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. That's a lot of Mike Tomlin era there, Anthony Prohaska. How much of a feather is that in the cap for Buffalo?
I actually think it extends that 249 yards was the most versus a Steelers team in Pittsburgh since 1975, and it was the most ever at that specific stadium. I know they don't call it Heinz Field anymore, whatever the hell they call it.
For sure,
yeah. I actually think the previous record, if I remember this correctly, I think the overall record is 310 yards, also by the Buffalo Bills. Wow. I think that was an O.J. Simpson day, if I remember correctly. But yeah, shout out to murder, I guess. Yeah, they really put the screws to him on that side of the ball. And again, they really only ran the same concepts. It was a lot of mid zone. It was a lot of duo. The Steelers tried to adjust with their fronts, but the Bills just kept taking it to them. Again, this is a good run team. They execute well up front. What was key in this game, it was not only the offensive line, it was the tight ends, it was the wide receivers. They were people moving left and right. And for them to do it without their 2 starting tackles in a game where everybody knew they had to run the ball and they can't really pass it that great anyway, it was really nice to see them come out and just control the line of scrimmage, which started out a bit slow. I think a lot of people forget it was 7-3 Steelers going into half, and things weren't looking good. And then the Bills get a defensive touchdown and a turnover, and all of a sudden the floodgates kind of opened. The run took over. They controlled the trenches, and they got out of there with a win.
Look, no question, Joe Burrow is back, and he looked good. A lot of people thought they shouldn't even bring him back, and a lot of people thought, oh, come on, he's going to be rusty. There's going to be some timing issues here, and he stepped right in and looked really good. So the Bills are facing Joe Burrow, and there's no reason to think he's going to be less than what he normally is. So talk about that task and what kind of things will they have to do in order to keep the Bengals in check.
Yeah, it is a tall task. I think I know there's a lot of like quarterback discourse nowadays in terms of like who's the best this and who's the best that. And I know Burrow gets a decent amount of respect. I think Joe Burrow is phenomenal. I love his game as a QB. I think he's more mobile than he gets credit for, but he's so good from the shoulders up in like pre-snap diagnosis, post-snap diagnosis and execution, like knowing where to go with the ball. And he makes some, even against Baltimore there, the touchdown late to Yoshivas where it's like their third down, they bring the blitz and Roquan has to go from a mugged up look to covering Yoshivas on that bender. And Roquan actually does a pretty good job. And Burrow just layers this thing perfectly over him, like 30 yards downfield, drops it right into Yoshivas. He's just really accurate, makes good decisions. And the Bills have struggled against him in the past because he's so comfortable taking whatever you give him. If you're going to give him underneath, he'll take it. If you're going to give him the intermediate, he'll take it. If he has to push the ball downfield, he'll take it. Now, it helps when he pushes the ball downfield. He's got Jamar Chase and usually T. Higgins. We'll see if T. Higgins plays in this game. He's had a concussion. Obviously, if he plays, it's a significant boon to them. But the Bills really I think they have to have more of a matchup-specific game plan against Cincinnati. In the past, it's been more of like, hey, we're just going to play our defense and kind of adjust and see what happens. And the Bengals have eaten that up. I think they need to come into this game with a game plan similar to what they've done against Kansas City, where it's a defensive game plan tailored to that offense, to that quarterback. You have to change the pre to post snap picture. You got to vary your rush plans. Again, Burrow has some escapability, but he's not the most mobile. They have to get after him creatively. Their pressure rate has been down since Bosa's been hurt. So I think, doing some schematic things, some simulated pressure, some creepers, some fire zone stuff, changing the pre to post snap picture, making him uncomfortable. And I think also within that, you accept like they're going to get you for some stuff. Like, I don't think they're going to hold the Bengals below 20. I don't think they'll hold them below 25. But create some negative plays, maybe get some turnovers, confuse them a little bit, and then pair that with some good offense on the other side and maybe score 30 and they score 24 and you get out of there with a win.
Again, we're speaking with our Buffalo Bills main squeeze. Anthony Prohaska of Cover One, some disguised coverage action, and lovely festive treats visually on screen when he has that cooking back there. ESPN's Bill Barnwell came out with a column this morning where he was ranking the NFL players and coaches with the most at stake in the playoff push, like basically who's under pressure.
Yes.
And the first thing he listed is Buffalo Bills offensive coordinator Joe Brady. Do you agree?
League wide, I don't know. That's tough. I do think he's under pressure though, significantly. And whether I've said this before, it's funny or maybe not so funny, depending on how you look at it. It's kind of the same thing they hit a couple years ago with Ken Dorsey. And it's funny that Dorsey and Brady are two very different offensive minds philosophically, identity-wise, how they run their offense, how they ran it, like what they do, and like just they're diametric opposites. And it's funny that both offenses kind of hit the wall in the same way. And it's like, oh, how could that happen? Well, what's the one constant in that offense? It's Josh Allen. So is it a Josh Allen? Like, I think it's interesting that two completely different offensive coordinators have hit the wall in the same way with the same QB, but no one's going to sit there and blame Allen, even though he has a hand in this to a degree. But yeah, Brady I don't think he's done him a ton of favors this year. There are questions schematically, conceptually, how they design the offense, what they set Allen up for success with, combined with how Allen's decision-making funnels into that. I do think there's been a lot left on the table for how they can maximize this offense, set themselves up better for success, different buttons they can press, dials they can turn, levers they can pull. And Brady just hasn't. It's been very stagnant. They've been stuck in neutral for a while. And I think it's kind of one of those things that's the gift and the curse of having a quarterback like this. Because, you get the quarterback like that, but if there's struggles, the first person everybody's going to look to is the offensive coordinator. Because it's like, how can you not make this amazing thing with this quarterback that you have? He's 1,000% under a ton of pressure. It is a weekly thing. Even the Steelers game, it ended up well. But in the middle of the second quarter and at halftime, you still had everybody and their mother calling for Brady's head. Torches and pitchforks were lined up, ready to go. He's really hanging by a thread with the fan base. And I even think within the office as well. They fired Dorsey mid-year. I don't think that'll happen to Brady considering where they are now. But if he doesn't get it together, I could see him not being here next year at all.
Talking with Anthony Prohaska, our Bills insider, Cover One. Check him out there for sure. Our today's broadcast brought to you by our friends at Box Drop Syracuse. Let's just take a quick break, 30 seconds, learn a little bit more about our friends from Box Drop. Considering that we sleep nearly 1/3 of our lives, buying the right mattress is essential. At Box Drop Syracuse Mattress and Sofa Outlet, you'll get a unique experience, one that saves you 30 to 70% off retail prices on top-of-the-line mattresses like Sapphire Sleep. At Box Drop, you'll schedule a mattress fitting appointment and get one-on-one service directly with Paul, the owner. No middleman. Family-owned, huge savings, no-pressure sales designed to save you time and money. And now Box Drop Syracuse has sectional sofas and love seats as well, with prices designed to fit your budget. Box Drop Syracuse mattress and sofas. Set up your appointment today at boxdropsyracuse.com. All right, we're back talking all things Bills, Inside the Bills with Anthony Prohaska from Cover One. Anthony, all season long, we have spent a lot of our conversations talking about the receiver room and what's going on there at the trade deadline where the Bills going to go out and maybe pick up another piece. They didn't do that. And fantasy managers are wondering what the heck's going on with Khalil Shakir. I mean, I thought he was the guy with the low floor and, okay, we don't know what the ceiling is, but he has that solid low floor. But in two of the last 3 games, he's kind of been non-existent. High floor. Thank you, Paul. So what is going on with the passing attack of the Buffalo Bills? We saw how potent the running attack was in Pittsburgh, and that's all they needed to win that game. But are you concerned in any way about the passing attack? And does this Buffalo Bills team have a number 1 receiver? Maybe I should ask you that question as well. Go ahead.
They do in theory, but not really from like they have a guy who's number 1, but is it a true number 1? Meh. Their true number 1 in the pass game is Dalton Kincaid, even though he's a tight end. Like, he's the mismatch creator. He's the guy that kind of gets things going. He's the tip of the spear for their pass game. I am 1,000% worried about this pass game. I have been for a good chunk of the year. I talked about it in the offseason. Like, they essentially ran back the same offense, which is good, right? You had a ton of success last year, but my biggest concerns were the flaws that we saw last year, which were if you don't have a true number 1 and or if you don't have guys who can win on the outside, get you a bucket outside and or win deep as an offense or individually, things will start to get tight and things will start to compress. We saw that a bit last year. That's why they went out and got Amari Cooper. They tried to remedy that and alleviate that pressure that they were feeling and all that constriction. And then they came into the offseason and all they did was add Josh Palmer. And I like Josh Palmer, but you essentially ran back the same offense as last year, an offense that got you the MVP quarterback, an offense that everybody and their mother was going to study coming into this year, and you didn't really change much. And I think the lack of weapons on the outside is a significant part of why this pass game is struggling and stagnant. Now, their advanced metrics are still good. They're still able to do things. But if you watch the in-structure pass game, when I say in-structure, I'm talking snap, Josh Allen drops, whether it's 3-step, 5-step, whatever, he drops and he looks. There's not much like drop. Oh, my number 1's open. Let me hit it. Oh, I drop. My number 1's not there. Oh, there's my 2. Let me hit it. It's very much like drop. I don't like that. I don't like that. And then Allen gets skittish and runs around, which can work. And then he does mutant things. And you're like, oh, that worked. Like what he did on the touchdown to Shavers against the Buccaneers. But it is a struggle with the pass game right now. Yes, they have guys that are banged up, but conceptually, they don't push the ball downfield. Allen, for better, for worse, doesn't really push the ball downfield, understandably so at times. And then from a weapon standpoint, they don't really have these true one-on-one guys who can get you a bucket. And then you have Shakir, who's really been reduced to this quick screen role in the Bills offense where he gets the ball like anywhere from a half yard behind to a half yard ahead of the line of scrimmage. Everything is just spit it out and get it to him quickly, which can work because when he gets the ball in his hands, he's like a running back. We've seen him break tackles, juke guys, and house things that he shouldn't be housing. But he's not really getting much work aside from that. I also think he's been banged up at different points this year. There were a couple times in the Steelers game where he was running routes and there was just no push. There was just no suddenness. There was no burst. And it's not like, oh, he's a lazy route runner or he doesn't care. To me, it was either, oh, is he gassed? But I'm looking at the down and distance of where we are. I'm like, no, it's not that. I still don't think he's playing healthy. I think he's playing through injury. And that combined with the usage that has been reduced, he's their best pass catching threat that isn't Dalton Kincaid. His role has kind of been reduced in where he operates. Joe Brady's done that. Whatever the reasons are, that's what we're getting. And you're just not seeing that production out of him or the pass game in general.
Let's stay in that wide receiver room. So Keon Coleman, a name you did not mention in that very long and beautiful and eloquent answer there, Anthony Prohaska. So he got benched for 2 straight games for discipline reasons. We're not exactly sure. If you know Anthony, feel free to share. And then in the Pittsburgh game, so boom, Keon Coleman, they break him out from the cryogenically frozen tank he was in, and he pops out there, 4th and goal touchdown. I imagine that helps the confidence and stuff. where are they at? Because, trust is hard to rebuild back up once you break it. And that trust feels broken with the fan base. I'd imagine a little bit with the team, too. 2 straight healthy inactives for a team that you mentioned needs a wide receiver to step up to the plate. And they felt good enough to say, you know what, with everything that's happened here, we're good with you just not playing at all. And then he has this big moment here in the Pittsburgh game. So what's sort of that trust right now between Keon Coleman and this organization?
Sounds like, Anthony, you got yourself an Abdul Carter situation here. Go ahead.
Abdul Carter situation is wild how
What
that's
the heck is going on?
But you know what's funny? Like, not to get too off track, and Paul, that's a great question. I'm excited to answer that. I'm excited to answer everything when I come on here. But I mean, Jim, that's like Abdul Carter had some character wonderings a bit at Penn State. And it was always like, you never know how much fire there is to that kind of smoke. But then you see how this rookie year is played out, and it's like, oh, there's a lot of fire to that smoke. And it's just so, and I know some of it is like circumstantial or maybe coincidental, but it's just such a bad look. Like what people are sharing from the film room sessions and the rumors there and pictures and just, and it's so frustrating. And I also feel like, I know he's turned the corner a little bit, but I feel like you had some of this with Kayvon Thibodeau as well a couple years ago. It was like he came out, and one of the big things on him coming out of Oregon, he was the top of the pops, hands down, number 1 prospect. This dude's going to be a game wrecker. And then as the year went on, his last year in college, it was like, does he care enough? Does he want to play football? Yeah. And now you've got, it should be him and Carter, and you've got Brian Burns, who's a stud and who cares, and you've got Dexter inside. It should be just a house of horrors for everybody, but you've got 2 of those 4, your youngest 2, who it's like, do they care enough? And again, I know Thibodeau has turned the corner a little bit, but there's still that concern with him, even more so with Carter. But yeah, I feel for you. It's absolutely crazy. Yeah. I don't think Coleman's that bad, not to make it that seem worse for Carter, but the trust is very tenuous, Paul, to your question. Like and I think within the fan base, it's definitely more hair trigger. I think fans are just waiting any moment to jump on Keon and bury him. I think the team is a little different. Overall, I just think the situation is very frustrating, like, especially this year. And you alluded to it, Paul, in the question, like they need help at wide receiver. And I think part of the reason why they didn't do much in the offseason, it was because, like, well, we just took this guy in the early 2nd round last year. Let's hope he develops. Granted, hope isn't the best plan, but it's just frustrating all around. He hasn't been what they've needed him to be, one way or the other. I do think there's some maybe maturity issues with it. I don't think he's a bad guy or a bad character guy. I think there's just some maturity issues and some sense of urgency issues. And I still could see Keon Coleman being some really impactful guy in his late 20s or 30s. And he's doing that, an interview on ESPN talking about how childish he was, when he first got into the league and how he turned it around, yada, yada. But I think all of it adds up too. And this is something I've said before. I'm not necessarily here. My biggest thing with the Keon Coleman selection was you knew what he was coming out, which was a raw green prospect who needed time on task. And the team he went to was a team that needed him to contribute at a top of the depth chart level right away. He went to a team with Super Bowl aspirations, realistic ones, who needed him to perform as a wide receiver 2 right away. And he wasn't built for that. So and I know Josh Allen kind of, lobbied for that pick. And I get it, listening to your guy a little there, and they wouldn't have drafted him if they had severe red flags. But I put part of this blame, not that Keon doesn't deserve it all, but I put part of some of this on the Bills. Like, you brought in a guy who needed time on task, who needed to develop. And instead of doing that, you threw him into the fire right away. And, sometimes I get it, sink or swim, and baptism by fire can work, but it's just it's a less than ideal situation overall for Keon, and I think for the team. And yeah, when you have questions at that spot and in your pass game, and you're willing to sit your high ceiling guy who you spent an early round pick on the year before and your first pick in that draft, it's bad all around for him and the team. Bad optically, bad logistically. It's not an ideal situation.
All right, this may be super deep cut, but, we're doing a Buffalo Bills interview, so why not? So they claim Darius Slay. You're like, ooh, Darius Slay, the name. That's like a big name. And so they had to make a corresponding roster move when you claim someone off waivers. For those less initiated, Anthony knows this like the back of his hand, but for those that are less initiated, when you claim someone off waivers, you immediately have to create that roster spot under 53. So you got to throw someone off the island as soon as you welcome someone new on. And for the Bills, that was Jamarcus Ingram, corner. Does that move the needle? Is that of anything to Buffalo Bills fans, or is that a again, a non-needle mover there.
For me, I don't like it. I like
okay.
Jamarcus Ingram, and we'll see what Slay can be. But I've liked Jamarcus Ingram since he's been here. He started out as a nickel guy and then got some inside-outside versatility to his game. Last year, they used him as the dime defensive back, and early on against Miami last year, again, small sample size, he was locking down Tyreek Hill in the low red zone and helping the Bills get a victory against Miami. He had a rough run defense rep against the Falcons, didn't contain the outside on the Bijan Robinson, like 70-plus yard house call. But he's tenacious, he's violent, he's physical, he can play the slot, he can play outside. He's been more of a depth guy and a special teamer, and he's not a high ceiling guy. But when I saw that was the corresponding move, I personally was legitimately sad. I hope he picks up somewhere. He's just a good glue guy at the bottom of the depth charts, good special teamer, plays hard, he's mean, he's nasty, and has some versatility. So I am a little disappointed that he was the one that got the boot.
Anthony, real quick, I just want some clarity here. You just mentioned Bijan Robinson. He went crazy. So the Bills lost to the Falcons. The Jets beat the Falcons. So the Jets are better than the Bills?
Yeah, I mean, you could make that case. If I remember correctly, though, the Jets have how many wins right now?
You only need 3 right now. Quality over quantity. Quality over quantity.
That's fair. Yeah. That's fair. I mean, the Jets also did lose to the Steelers, who the Bills just housed. The Bills also beat the Jets, so there's some tough math
it's not
in there.
looking good.
I'd like to remove that slice of the logic off the table and go back to what I said. Yes.
I'd like to focus only on this and ignore everything else. I will say, though, in all seriousness, like it seems like week by week, that Falcons loss just could not look worse. And I know they don't have Penix,
right,
and that's impacting them. But
and Drake's hurt, right? Yeah.
Yes, but the way the Bills showed up in the first half of that game, it week by week, it just keeps getting worse. The Patriots game, the Bills kind of shot themselves in the foot a bit, and it's understandable, and we'll see what happens going forward. But yeah, that Falcons loss, to your point, just keeps looking worse for the Bills every week.
Hey, since it's Buffalo connected, I'll ask you this one, and then I got a final question for you. Joe Shane, all right, he's got Buffalo roots, comes from the Brandon Bean tree. What do you think? In your mind, should he stay with the Giants, or should the Giants reevaluate here at the end of the season? Obviously, they let Dable go. But there's still some rumblings that Shane might not be safe, even though he's, quote, heading up the search for the new coach. In your opinion, based on what you've seen and what he's done over the last couple of years with the Giants, does he deserve to keep his job or not?
You know, we talked about this a bit whenever we went into this, talking about should Dable get fired like 4 weeks before Dable got fired. I'm still a believer in Joe Shane, and really just from a roster development standpoint, again, this is part of what we talked about those weeks ago. I like what they brought in. Like, I like the guys on paper, but then I think, okay, Banks kind of fell off a cliff, and there's questions with him as like a player or motivation. Now you got the Carter thing. We talked about the Thibodeau thing. Part of me has reservation now, like, is Shane or his scouting department, are they missing like red flags for these guys? Because like, I forgot about Banks until right now. He started up. Banks was sick as a rookie. I remember breaking down his tape and I was like, whoa, they got like another dude there. And I remember going into this year, I was like, they bring in Holland, they fix some stuff on the back end. Now you got Banks, and they put a Debo. Now I have the Debo. And then Banks was just like, no, it's cool. I'm going to nosedive and fall off a cliff. And that's given me some pause, like with the high profile guys that they brought in and how there's red flags around them from a personal standpoint or a character standpoint. And you didn't see any of that in Buffalo. Like, Buffalo's known for, if anything, going too much towards the character end versus like the talent end. Not to say the guys that they bring in aren't talented, but I think Shane, I would keep him, but it's closer for me now. I'm at like 55-45, whereas previously I was like 65-35. It's dwindling for me because I think when you really start to dig and nitpick like you need to when you're figuring out who's going to run your ship, there are some red flags or some things underneath the surface that you're like, oh, well, how did you miss that? Or why does this keep happening? Why does this keep happening? But I do think he knows what it takes to build a good roster, but there are significant questions for him. So I'm still keeping him, but I'm close. It gets more tenuous by the day for me.
Yeah, I think the reason he keeps his job is because he found the QB. And anytime you find the QB, you usually, kind of ride that wave.
Are you, so you're like you, and I'm not asking this like negatively. Are you're cool? Like, hey, Dart's the guy. Let's ride with Dart. You're confident in that?
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah.
Cool.
I mean, the guy's got to learn how to get out of harm's way, or he's going to be on
That's
the
fair.
field about a third of the time.
Yeah.
If he could figure out that little problem.
I think what sucks for him too,
yeah.
it's really like for a rookie like that, it would have been great if Neighbors was there all year. Granted, Dable couldn't get the ball to him early on, but yeah, I think that's fair proposition. And to your point, it's a great call. Like usually, if you get that QB, even behind the scenes, you can be like, well, we just got our QB. So like now I get to develop around the QB, and you can kind of massage that a little bit and kind of go forward.
Definitely. And the thing is, you got to remember, Dart didn't fall into their lap. Shane made moves, made that move in the draft to go get him. So there's no doubt that he was part of wanting Jackson Dart. So he can take credit for it, whether he was or wasn't. I know there's a lot of speculation about that, whether he was the guy making that move, or was it ownership, or was it Brian Dable raising his hand in the room? Who cares? Shane can take credit for that move because generally the GMs get credit for these big draft moves. And so he takes credit for that and says, hey, I'm the guy that brought Jackson Dart here. You want to get rid of me? Didn't I just find us a quarterback? How long we've been looking? Since Eli, we've been looking.
That's fair.
We got the guy. I found him.
I just have to say that's incredibly ballsy by Shane, right? So he has a third overall pick, and then he trades back into the back end of the first round to be able to get him. Like, you're judging that your intel on every other team and what they feel about Jackson Dart is right. Because if you're getting cute, because like they didn't have to give him a future first to trade back into round one. Ballsy, and it worked out because you get your quarterback and he looks good, and you're like, okay, here we go. But if you are playing cute, you know who your guy is, but you don't want to give up a third round pick versus a second round pick, and it doesn't work out, you don't get your quarterback, you have egg on your face. So when it works out, you look like a champion. So hey, ballsy for him.
Yeah, that risk reward.
And remember, BG, when we talked all about this leading up to the draft, before the draft, I said the Giants cannot take a quarterback with that number 3 pick. They got to take somebody else.
They got to take Abdul Carter.
Abdul Carter was really the target. And then he took him, and I was like, this is genius. We got our quarterback and our guy. Now, this Carter thing is really ticking me off, Anthony, because, come on, when you give up that kind of draft capital, you need the guy to hit, and you need him to hit big. This guy wanted to wear Lawrence Taylor's number, for crying out loud. All right? So, like, easy, buddy, easy. He's got a sack and a half on the year. I mean,
that's crazy to me. Like, the lack of, I didn't even know he wanted to wear Taylor's number until you told me that right now. That
Lawrence Taylor and Phil Sims, both numbers.
Because 11 is the famous Penn State number.
Oh, because that makes sense. Yeah, because he wore that Penn State.
I can't one now, but he was wearing 11. Yeah,
fair. Like, I can't. And again, everyone's different, but like for you to ask for that, and then who knows? Maybe there's a little chicken egg scenario where like he didn't get those, and now he feels disrespected. And maybe that's why we're seeing him not care as much. I don't know, but for you to ask for those and then not deliver is just so, like, I think of the other one I think of, just keeping in the division, CeeDee Lamb wanted to wear Michael Irvin's 88, and like, look what CeeDee Lamb has become. When you ask for something like that, you got to be a dude because you are wearing a legendary number for a franchise. You're putting more pressure on yourself, you're putting yourself more into the spotlight than you already are. And for you to do that and then not care in theory, that just makes me so mad. I can't imagine how you feel, Jim. Like, that makes me so much more mad than I already was in that situation. Yeah. For you to, because like that, now it seems even more like, who do you think you are? Like, you asked for that number and then you're going to show up and half-ass this season? Yeah. Like, after you asked for 2 cornerstone numbers.
Show up late to meetings chronically, not hustle on some plays, and they're like, what's going on there? He just decided he'd stop and watch other people make that tackle. What the heck?
It's just so, the hustle thing are always the ones like, it's easier to see in hockey all the time too. And I've talked about it with the Sabres with how bad they've been for years, but like it's fine to get beat, right? Like some guy, you got beat on a rep or you got, or there was a better play call than what you had or whatever, but you can always control your effort and your hustle. You can always go 100 miles an hour, 100% time. If you get tired, cool, you tap out, whatever, you come back on. But that's like that kind of effort. And you asked for like those numbers and you're going to come out and that's just wild. Like, just utterly frustrating to see.
Wait a second. We're just getting news in. We have a live camera in on Abdul Carter.
See, my thing with this one though, I want to know, like, this, not to play devil's advocate, but maybe they're watching something on tape and he's frustrated. Maybe he's like, oh, and like looking back. But from this angle, it looks like he's 1,000% asleep. But
or maybe they had one of those little star things, that's on the
Oh,
ceiling. And, he's
sure.
looking up and he was trying to
or maybe
recognize the
he's like a
constellations.
cat, and somebody put the laser pointer up there, and he's like, oh,
Oh, that's a
Not
good
good.
point, Lurch. It's a good point. Maybe everyone else is ignoring what's on the ceiling, and
Right.
and he's the only one. Oh, I see.
But there could be, I don't know, maybe they're going over something and they're like, hey, we have to fit this way, or we have to do this differently. And maybe he's like, oh, but this is pretty not good.
Oh, how did we get down this rabbit hole? Get that picture off that screen. Oh, my goodness.
That was the one I think I saw that last night. It's better than the rumors of what else he was doing in film rooms, but it's still not good. And again, it's just another example of, like, sometimes it's smoke for the sake of smoke. There's too much smoke for there to not be fire
really
in
not
some
good.
way. And then it's like, okay, like, does he clean this up? Because how do you get someone to care more? Like, you can get someone to improve their technique if they're willing to put the work in and grind. But what do you do with someone who just in theory or seemingly doesn't care? Like, how do you make them care? Like, that's a hard thing to answer.
Well, I just, as we were talking about this, I was thinking of something, and Boy Green and I had the lucky pleasure a number of years ago of interviewing Mike Tyson on the radio. He was in the Syracuse area for an event, like a one-man show, and we got him on, and he ended up singing me happy birthday. We have a whole little thing about that. But more importantly, we got to talk to him, and one of the things I was really, really high on my list to talk to him about was a guy by the name of Customato. And Customato was an old man trainer, essentially, who was in the boxing game forever. And somehow, some way, him and Mike Tyson's paths crossed, and he became Tyson's trainer. And the thing with Tyson is Tyson was just like this, for lack of a better way of putting it, like a wild animal. I mean, he had no compass. His compass was all over the place, but he was a beast in the ring. He could kill people with his punches and his physicality. He was an incredible. Anybody that knows Mike Tyson knows this, right? So, but he was a bucking bronco. He was a wild animal. He's out of control. So how are you going to bring him into a boxing ring with decorum and technique and all that stuff comes into play?
Yeah, and teach him poise and patience and all that.
Was that guy. For some reason, Mike Tyson, this crazed animal, and Customato, this almost kind of demure, oldish guy who knew all this stuff about boxing, came together, and it was a perfect match. And Tyson still to this day, and he talked about it in that conversation, gives D'Amato the credit for essentially making him the person that he is, the boxer that he became, so on and so forth, So it was the perfect marriage. I say to the Giants hierarchy, don't send in, John Mara to go chastise, Abdul Carter and say, hey, buddy, next year you better get your act together. We spent a lot of draft capital on you. Or Joe Shane sit him down and say, hey, do I need to get out the ruler here? What do we need to do here to get you in line, fella? All right. Because I don't think that's going to work with Abdul Carter. They got to find their Customato. They got to find somebody who gets through to this guy and makes him understand that all the skills that he has inside his body translate to a gigantic career, fame, fortune, and so much more on the greatest market in the world. But you got to get your act together, buddy. Let's do this. Let's find a plan and have a plan, and let's do this. Because I don't think the wagging of the finger is going to work for this guy. Clearly, it hasn't so far. You can't tell me that people haven't talked to him in this organization. Said, Abdul, why are you late? And he's just like, I know, but I was tired, man, dude. Come on, I'll be there on time tomorrow. What the heck, man? I deal with students every day. I know about excuses. Okay, I'm an excuse. I hear excuses all the time, and I read through that BS in about 2 seconds. All right, so no more excuses. They need to put him around somebody or somebody with him who gets through to him because the Giants need him to work out. You don't want to be dumping this guy after 2 years, and for what, the third rounder or something? I mean, my goodness, for someone else that thinks they can change him, you got to fix him. Hopefully he can be fixed. I'm really worried.
Yeah, find yourself like a Tyson whisperer or a Carter whisperer, and it's so tough because it's all one of those like, is it a vet that they bring in, or is it somebody on the roster that gets through to him, or is it's a coach from the outside or a coach there, and we see it all the time, right? Like the guys who I made the joke earlier about Keon, but like those guys who such high potential, but they flame out with their first team and then they pick it up and with another team and they're, the Sunday interview on ESPN pregame. Cause it's like, oh, how did you turn it around? It was like, oh, they brought in Timmy so-and-so and he really got through to me and I had to clean up my act. And you hope that happens here in-house with the Giants. And it's not, they cut him loose and he signs for a 1-year, $3 million deal with some other team. And then he takes off. Cause it's like, they finally got through to me. Or, you know what? Sometimes you do have to hit bottom a little bit. Does that team have to cut you before you realize, like, uh-oh, I am expendable. I do have to get my stuff together. It doesn't matter how much talent I have. Like, yeah, it can come in so many forms.
I mean, it's in the early stages, but look at what's happened with George Pickens. I mean, he leaves the Steelers.
Fair.
Steelers have been really good at developing receivers over the years, and now he's a star in Dallas. The guy's one of the best receivers in football right now. Now, will it last? We'll see.
Yeah.
The guy's got a few loose screws, but all things are pointing upward right now for George Pickens, and I'm sure the Steelers are not exactly looking over there going, ooh, that's fantastic.
No, especially with how, like, volatile of a player he is. Like, he is, I mean this in the best way and also maybe the worst. Pickens is crazy. And the fact that they've been able to, like, rein him in and the production that he's had this year and the consistency that he's had, like, but also, you know what I think there too, rightly or wrongly, I think playing with someone like CeeDee Lamb, who is very, for as much as like CeeDee Lamb, he's got a great aesthetic and the celebrations and things. He is a professional as hell when it comes to his preparation, his route running, how much he cares. I think pairing Pickens with a guy like Lamb, who is one, very good at his position, but two, is very workmanlike and professional. Maybe those type of things like rub off on someone like that. I think I always go back to, maybe this isn't the best example because of what he turned into, but I think Terrell Owens, like everybody always talked about like how, oh, he's all about me and this and that. He was one of the few people who regularly worked out with Jerry Rice and did Jerry Rice's like legendary offseason workout routine. Like Owens was a monster when it came to work and preparation, and that manifested in some different ways. But you get those guys with someone who is good and they respect and who goes about it the right way, and you can smooth out some of those rough edges. And to your point, we'll see if it lasts with Pickens. But even that, like with the Giants, I kind of want like, and maybe Brian Burns isn't that type of person, but Brian Burns is a vet and he's a fantastic, like, I would imagine, or even Dexter Lawrence, I would imagine one of those dudes were like, yo, Abdul, you got to get your stuff together. And if I'm Abdul Carter, I'm like, Brian Burns is one of the best. Dexter Lawrence is one of the best. You know what? Yeah, let me get my stuff together. And that, granted, maybe they're not doing that. Maybe they've checked out. I'm not saying they have, but it's just, it's funny how you see other things and can it be replicated? Who gets through to them? Who doesn't? Maybe no one can. It's a frustrating thing to have to talk about, especially as you're in a state where you're trying to rebuild this thing going forward. You need a new head coach. You think you got the QB. You've got some good pieces. You need to know who you have now, so who you can build with going forward. And he should be a big piece. And right now he's a question mark. And that sucks. And it's frustrating.
Yeah, that's fun. Thanks for going down that rabbit hole with us. All right, I want to end it with this. Since we're in the month of December, Anthony, for the next few interviews leading up to Christmas, at the end of each interview with our guests, I'm going to end with a little Christmas question. Okay. So for you today is this, and this is just Anthony Prohaska's take on this about Christmas, okay? Anthony Prohaska, greatest Christmas gift you've ever gotten and why?
Wow.
We'll go back to 2 years old if you want. Is it something that lit you up one year, Was it some kind of crazy Bills magazine?
Oh man, I've gotten a lot of really cool jerseys. I've gotten great gifts. Like,
does one stick with you? You kind
from
of say,
a quality.
Like,
I will say, I'll go with this one because it was a great gift, and I was floored by it and surprised. I got it's close to. My wife got me a PS5 a couple years ago when it was hard to get them. That's up there, but I'll probably go when I got the PS3 the year it came out. I was completely shocked and floored because it was hard to get them. And like, it wasn't like when I got the PS5, that was around COVID times. And it was more like because of COVID, supplies were low. You couldn't bring stuff in. It was tough to find things. With the PS3, that and the Xbox 360 came out at the same time. And it was both. It was just like, these are crazy hot. Everyone's buying them. And one of my good buddies got an Xbox for Christmas. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. How did your parents get a hand on one? He's like, I have no idea. This is amazing. And so I wasn't expecting like anything. And somehow, this typical fashion, like my aunt knew a guy knew a lady who knew a guy who got us an in to get like a PS3 for my cousin and me. And so I wasn't expecting it at all. I was very content. I knew how crazy it was going to be. I already talked like, I'm like, oh, maybe I'm a summer birthday. So I was like, oh, maybe I can get it for my birthday. Like if the price is
crazy.
Putting it off. Correct. I wasn't thinking about it at all. And then a big box kind of came out Christmas morning, and
you're like, that looks about the right size.
Yep. That's it. To your point,
kind of heavy.
I wasn't even thinking. I was like, oh, are these boots? Like, what are this? Because I didn't expect it to be a PS3. And then I moved the box and I was like, this has weight to it. No way. And I was pretty stoked. And I think I was in high school at that time. So I still had like the Christmas excitement of a kid. And I was completely shocked and floored. And I have details about it because I remember asking my mom, I was like, how did you get it? Like, no, what happened? Like, how did you finagle it? And I was like so pumped and so excited. So yeah, it's hard for me to pick. I've gotten some great gifts. My family does a great job. My wife does a great job. But yeah, I'll go with that because it was a great gift. And I was it wasn't like, oh man, but in my head, I was like, oh, I knew it. I had made my peace and it seemed like when the Bills ended the drought, I was like, they're not going to make the playoffs. It is what it is. And then they made it. And I was like, oh, like that. Oh my God.
Surprise factor. Yeah.
That's exactly it. It was the surprise factor. It was the quality. Yeah, it was, I'll go with that.
Well, no surprise. A game script enthusiast and a film geek goes with the PS3. Love it. Love it very much. All right. New question coming next week.
I like
just
it.
to get yourself in the Christmas spirit and the Christmas mind, just to give a little flavor. Anthony, thanks as always, man. We appreciate it. And we'll talk to you again next week.
Thank you for having me. Enjoy the rest of your week.